up, everyone? I sat down for a morning meeting today with my longtime friend and business partner, James Shadoan. James and I have been investing in real estate since we were partners together on the fire department back in 2009. We discuss all the lessons we learned from then and how we're applying it to our business today. His background as an investigator makes sure that our business runs as smoothly as possible. Hope you enjoy it. Hey, James, welcome to the bullpen. Thanks for meeting me.
What's up, Kyle? What's going on? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, stoked to get you on here. I want to just chat with you a little bit about what's been going on in your life with this crazy Corona COVID-19, but then also, pick your brain on some of the personal finance stuff that we like to talk about. So with that in mind, you ready?
Yes, sir. Let's go for it.
What's been going on with you with the COVID?
I'll probably like everybody, especially everybody with kids. It's been probably more of an adjustment there, just being home every day with the little ones and, getting their school caught up to speed and what's expected of them. And in addition to work, we're staying busy in MAST and just trying to, I think, kind of sift through all the changes that come just about daily. So, but we're surviving, doing all right. How about you?
Yeah, about the same. Trying to adjust to having kids home from school, and everybody's on the lockdown and all that. So it has been tough. You said everything's the same in MAST, or everything's different in MAST? And first of all, for those that don't know, what is MAST?
MAST is a specialty division within the fire department. It stands for Metro Arson Strike Team. Basically, we're the fire investigators for the city of San Diego.
Right on. And it's all status quo there, or it's you guys have made some changes too?
We're trying to limit our exposure over at the fire station. Obviously, there's a lot of folks there. So we're doing our best to try to stay away from the office. We can't help it. Obviously, we package up all our evidence and it is stored there. We work on computer systems that are unique to the MAST office that we can't go and do from home. So it's a little bit of half and half, I'd say, working from home and working from the office.
So are you able to then still come up with undetermined electrical from home if you're not in the office, or how does that work?
There's a lot of experience that goes into undetermined electrical there, Kyle.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, right on. Hey, listen, thanks for being here, man. You ready to get this morning meeting going?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do this. So here's your first alarm. First alarm is we ask you 4 questions. You give us 1 piece of advice. Sound good?
Okay.
You're first in that scene, so I need to size up who you are, where you work, and how long you've been on.
For those of folks that don't know me, my name is James Shadoan, captain with San Diego Fire Department. Signed, like we said earlier, to MAST, the Metro Arson Strike Team. I've been on now for, 13 years or something, give or take. Been in public service for 20. For those of you that don't know, I was a police officer for about 6 years before the fire department. So this year would be my 20-year anniversary in public service. Started back in 2000. And that's about it.
Awesome. You go by anything other than James, or is James it?
I think there might be a couple nicknames floating around out there.
Yeah, probably. This is a kid's show, so we'll just stick with the one most guys know as Shooter, right?
Yes, sir.
Right on. Sounds good. Thank you for your service to the fire department and to CHP. We will take requests to get you back in those big motorcycle boots at one point. Anyway,
yes,
why don't you talk to us a little bit about your investment experience? Where do you spend most of your time thinking about? Where do you do? Where's your comfort zone? What are you getting into these days?
Oh, let's see. I first started investing in real estate, or I should say almost all of my investment portfolio is in real estate, a little bit in the stock market, but the majority of it's in real estate. I bought my first house, my primary residence in 2002, something along those lines. And always have at least been told that real estate is a great investment. I think 20 years ago or 18 years ago, whatever, that I didn't really know a lot about real estate. I knew it was a good investment strategy. and so I bought a house. Shortly after my primary, probably a couple years later, I bought a single family residence here in San Diego. I actually bought it with my brother. We still own it today as a rental. And shortly after probably that, and I still own that today, and it's going really well. I think there's some lessons learned there. Maybe we'll get into it later. But shortly after that, after probation in the fire department, that's when you and I start working together down at 29s many moons ago. And
the good old days.
Yes, sir. The good old days. We were partners there for a little bit, and that's when we got talking about real estate, the two of us, and that we should, invest together. And at the time, I mean, the market was good. There's a lot of volatility going on, but it was definitely when we bought into it when we bought in 2009.
Yep.
It was a buyer's market at that point. And
looking back all that time, do you remember thinking this is a great time to buy? Do you remember how in tune with the market at that time did you feel? I certainly felt like I knew a little, but maybe only enough just to get myself in trouble. What was your feeling back then? Do you remember?
I echo those feelings 100%, especially with what I know now. We got into it at a time where I think it was a little bit of luck. Everybody was running away from real estate, and here we are trying to buy. And
yeah, it was almost like ignorance was bliss, huh?
Yes, it sure was. I mean, if you look at people that have been extremely successful in real estate, and they would say that was, a great move. And it was just a lot of luck probably at the time.
Yeah, no doubt. What, you see any parallels from 2009 until sitting here today, April 2020?
I think one of the big differences from the housing crash back in 2007 and 8, what is the difference in what the banks are doing? The type of loans, subprime loans and stuff. I mean, they're giving money away on stated income, and basically you can say you made hundreds of thousands of dollars and can afford $1 million house when in reality you couldn't. And the banks aren't doing that today.
Doesn't that feel crazy now thinking back? You could just put on paper that you made all this money, and the banks would just go off of what they called stated income. Was they basically took your word for it that you could afford this loan, and they would give you this loan, and a lot of people wound up upside down. That's absolutely right.
I remember, I won't go too far in this story, but I remember refinancing out of at the time I was in an 80-20 loan for my primary. And I was refinancing out of the 20% part of that loan and making it all one. The rates were much better, a couple points difference at the time. And I remember sitting across the desk from this real estate agent. His office was in PB and Pacific Beach area. And he said, "Well, how much money do you want to pull out of your house?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Oh, you pull out a couple $100,000 if you want, $100-something thousand." And I'm like, well, how do you pay that back? Or how does that work? And he goes, "Oh, well, we'll just say that, like, what do you think you could make?" At the time I was a police officer, and he goes, "What do you think you can make with overtime? Like your highest that you've ever made?" And I'm like, okay, at the time it was what he was saying. So I was listening, but in the back of my mind, I thought to myself, well, that's not real life. I can't make that kind of money that he's stating that I made. And he did his magic and made it work. And in the back of my mind, it didn't feel right. And obviously, a couple of years later, that was when the crash happened, and a lot of people, lost their homes because of it. So, looking, fast forward, 15 years from then, I can't believe that was ever allowed. So I wish I would have known just half of what I know now back then. Things would be a lot different.
Yeah, no question. But it sounds like you learned a lot from that period until now. And so sitting here today in 2020, you still investing in real estate? You looking for opportunities? Where's your head at real estate here today and now?
So shortly after my first single family residence rental, that's when you and I start working together, and you and I invested in our first property together. It was a duplex in National City, as you're well aware. We still own it today. We actually just hit our 11th year of owning that place.
Yeah.
So that thing has been great. I wouldn't say tripled in value, but 2.5 times the value and what we purchased that. And, it's just been a really, really good experience there. I think you and I together have managed it well. It hasn't been without its challenges. I'm going to say something you always tell me, that, in our line of work as firefighters, that, we're problem solvers. That's what we do, from small problems to large problems. And you take that same kind of mindset and apply it to a property manager, purchasing real estate, et cetera. It's about how we can mitigate these issues or problems and be successful. And I think you and I have been able to work well together. We have a good relationship, a good partnership. So anyhow, but that property, I think, I kicked myself because it was on a set it and forget it kind of path, that I know you and I multiple times said, hey, we would see each other in passing at work, or maybe work a shift together. We'd be like, oh yeah, hey, we should probably, maybe look into pulling some money out and doing a real estate deal or something. Yeah. Oh, we said that for what, about 9 years?
Bunch of years.
Yeah. a long time. And I kicked myself because we should own, 10 more of those by now. But so fast forward a little bit, come last year, you and I pulled some money out of the property finally. Found a property out in Indianapolis. We're kind of in the mindset that California is a tough market to get in. The margins are minimal here. I'm not saying it's impossible. You can invest here in California. It's not really fitting mine or our business plan or model anymore, or at least currently. But we bought a sixplex out in Indianapolis, or just outside of Indianapolis, Indiana. And that's
so that's been going great so far. Yeah. What's the latest with that? I know you've been doing some work behind the scenes, making sure that we're getting that thing stabilized. What's the latest on that one?
So the latest on that is we went into the purchase knowing that one of the units was going to need a rehab, one of the 5 units. We bought it off some investors, actually small world investors are from San Diego, as you know. And we went into it knowing that we're going to need a rehab. And this is going to be kind of a BRRRR deal. For those folks that don't know what a BRRRR is, BRRRR is you buy, you rehab it, you rent it out, and you refinance. You could add an extra R onto that and repeat it. And basically what you're trying to do is buy a property, might need a little bit of work. You rehab it, and you take money out, you refinance it, hopefully pulling out most, if not all, or more, if it's a great deal, and take that money and go buy the next one. And so you have very little of your own money, locked up in the deal. And so we're in the process of doing that now. We just had a tenant move out. We had a tenant that was a long-term tenant in this particular unit. And the unit needed a lot of work. Again, I know we went in knowing that, and our business plan at the time was, let's stabilize this place a little bit, raise rents accordingly to the market, which we have, or we are in the process of doing. And when that one particular tenant moved out, it was our chance to get in there and do the rehab. And so that we're doing that now.
Yeah, that's perfect. And the whole key with the BRRRR method is, if you can get in there at a price point that's below market, and then you can go in there and add value by either increasing the rents or rehabbing some of the units, then you have a chance to refinance and pull your money out. So I really do like that. And so far we're on track to complete that BRRRR sometime in the next few months here. So it's evident to me that you've had a lot of success through real estate. Our partnership has been great. I think we complement each other well. But what makes you passionate about real estate, and in particular for this line of work that we're in?
What makes me passionate about real estate is it's a mitigated risk investment strategy. The more you know about that particular asset, the more knowledge you have, the more you can mitigate your risk. I think in terms of, if I had to relate this to, let's say, us responding to a fire, right? And let's say it's you're first in and you it's a room and content fire. Obviously for the neighbor next door, it's a huge risk for that person to go in there and fight the fire. Let's say there's a rescue or something like that. For us, for firefighters, it's an inherent risk of going inside that place. But let's step it up a notch. Let's say there's a rescue or something that's needed. We're going to go into that structure. Now, we're mitigated our risk by, one, our training, education, experience, our academy time, other fires we've been to, our PPE. Right. And so it's going to be a fairly safe event for us to go into that house if it's at a certain level of the fire. But so circling back to how that relates to real estate is, the more you're educated, the more you know, the more you're prepared, the more you're going to be able to mitigate that let's say purchase of a house or a duplex or whatever asset type of asset you're purchasing. But so there are bad real estate investments, absolutely. If you go in and just purchase a property without knowing some of the risks involved, you're going to it very well potentially can be a bad deal. Just like going into a fire, if you don't have the proper gear and training, it's an extremely dangerous scenario. So it's similar to that. The more you learn about this particular type of investment strategy, the better off you're going to be. I used to, I run fairly regularly. I used to listen to music, and when I run, now I listen to podcasts. Now I listen to Bigger Pockets. We haven't.
That's really good. And that kind of brings us to our last little point. If you could, and all that you were saying on how real estate fits our mentality as far as risk mitigation, I think is a really important point. I think one that's going to hit home for a lot of people. And so I guess building off of that, if there's one piece of advice you could give people, and as far as your personal investment philosophy or a podcast or a book or something, where if people needed more information or more motivation to go out and do some of this, where would you send them?
Well, the first book I would say, because it's a mindset shift, at least it was for me. And I think a lot of folks bring this book up, and you're going to be hard pressed to find any kind of real estate investor or investing podcast or whatnot that's not going to talk about this book. That's The Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah. And he brings up a couple really good points, and I'll get into maybe just a couple or mention just a couple. And that's, it will first and foremost understand the difference between an asset and a liability. A lot of firefighter ways is buying that $60,000, $70,000 truck, and
mean, that's like a rite of passage, huh?
That's a liability. That's not an asset. So
I feel like I've seen like an F-350 rolling around with like a CrossFit license plate somewhere. I can't remember where I've seen it.
Just so you know, I bought that truck used, about 50% of its value. And matter of fact, my whole life, I've never bought a new car, and I don't think I ever will. But real quick, what's the difference between an asset and liability? An asset adds value to your income on your balance sheet. a liability adds expense to your balance sheet, right? So I think if there's one piece of advice that I would give is don't settle for mediocrity. I don't think firefighters in general, by and large, aren't mediocre folks. It took a lot for every single one of us to get onto a job as a firefighter, and carry that through your financial education or independence. Like, don't settle for, I show up to work every day, I get a paycheck and spend the money. You know, there is financial independence and waiting for us, as long as you don't be mediocre about your finances and your education, learning what can work for us.
I love that. That's perfect. That's really well said, man. Looks like you gave us some actual items here that we can go out and start to apply, man. I think you said it all. And with that, looks like we got knocked down on your first alarm. So if there's somewhere else people can find you, where else can they look for you?
Obviously, you guys know where I work. You're welcome to contact me there at any time on my cell phone. I have a Facebook, contact me there. And come to any of the meetups that you've been throwing, Kyle. They've been great. We've had a little bit of a turnout. It's been good. So that's how you can find me 24/7. Happy to help however I can.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time today, James. I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kyle. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks again to James Shadoan for joining us today. James and I complement each other really well in our real estate investing business together. James takes his background in investigations and applies it to his investing. His attention to detail and his knowledge of building construction is really off the charts. To be honest, I'm not really sure why he has me on the team. But anyway, if you want to follow James on Facebook, he's James Shadoan. That's SHADON. You can follow us on Facebook at the FIREhouse. That's F.I.R.E. house. On Instagram, the _fire_house. On LinkedIn, the FIREhouse Investors. That's all caps fire, lowercase house investors. If you like this video and you want to see more, please like, share, and subscribe. But whatever you do, take this information, go out there and get some. Station F.